All right. Welcome to Word of Mouth. Rob and Emily, thanks
Happy
for being
to be
here.
here.
Yeah, I love the name, word of mouth.
Thanks. It's how good ideas spread.
Yes.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay, so Rob and Emily, y'all are, I guess, would you call yourselves restaurateurs or entrepreneurs or chef or all of
All
the
of
above?
those, yeah.
Depending on what time of day, it could be any one of those.
Yeah.
hats. I will say, I mean, you asked earlier. Technically I'm the chef, but I don't cook a lot as much as I did in the very beginning.
Okay.
A lot of I have to give credit to those that do that. I was there last night and worked service for the first time in a long time, and it was good, but also it was like, okay, I need to leave this to the guys,
the experts.
Yeah.
Well, you say you haven't cooked in a long time. You cook at home
I
all the
cook-
time, and the girls get so excited about. They say they've got a personal chef.
That was one thing I was wondering is when that's your job, like, do you still want to cook at home? But okay, we'll get there.
Sure, yeah.
So y'all have two restaurants right now, Helen and Bayonet.
Mm-hmm.
James Beard recognized, Michelin recognized, very, very successful.
Thank you, and they're both right next to each other.
They're
Makes
fantastic. Yeah.
it fun.
How did we get here? How did you find food? How did you find each other? Where does all this kind of start? A common misconception I hear from people is that you have to be much older and have much more money in order to be an investor or to invest. And that's simply not the case. Fish Creek Capital is our sponsor of this podcast, and they're here to kind of help people understand that. They're here to help people learn how to invest. Their particular strategy is they focus on dividend growth. And what that means is that when you're invested in a company and they run a profit, then some of that money is distributed back to the investors. And so you end up getting cash for basically just putting your money into something and letting it sit there. And if you have a job like me and make money, you should probably consider investing. You should reach out to Fish Creek Capital and have a conversation with them and see what that might look like for you. Their information is linked down in the bio of whatever your podcast player is. Obviously, this is not a promise that they will perform in any sort of way because the market is volatile, and it would also be illegal for me to promise that. But I can tell you that they've been very successful with running their business and helping other people, and you should see how they might be able to help you. Back to the episode.
Who wants to start?
Trip down memory lane. We both were working at Geminex together, so we'll talk about how we met. And Rob had just started and quickly realized that where he was at that particular restaurant was not like the long-term place that he wanted to be, just a stepping stone. And found himself at Lake Martin running the beautiful Springhouse. The first chef there, he was there before they broke ground. It was so exciting. But when he said, would I move to Lake Martin, Alexander City, I definitely did not want to go.
I was gonna say it's an amazing place to vacation, but I don't know if it's a great place to live. I feel like people
Right.
don't really live there; they just go there to.
It's pretty awesome.
Really, is it?
Oh yeah. I lived there. I was there for what, 6 years, maybe 5 or 6 years by myself.
Okay.
Maybe 4 years by myself. Sorry.
And I was there 9.
And Emily told me when I left, she said, I'm going to give you 3 years and then you got to move back to Birmingham. I said, okay. And we went into year 4 and it was Valentine's and she came to the lake that weekend and we went and had dinner at Springhouse and all these people came up and, we're saying all these nice things and, she looked at me and she said, I can't ask you to leave this.
Yeah.
And so because it was something that was very special. And
No,
it still is to this day.
And we had made a lot of friends, and turns out there are young people there that live
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and it is a vacation home. There's a lot of people that retire there, but it was a community, and it was a very big community back in the heyday. And so we learned a lot about that, about our friends, their parents, and how many people had lived there, but, had also moved away because of a big company that had moved and left town. But I think that because we found a really good core group of friends that also love the lake and hospitality, we stayed. We stayed a lot longer than I thought we would, for sure.
We bought a house. I mean, that's where we came home to after we got married. That's where I proposed. That's where we came home to after we got married. That's where we brought our kids home to. That's where we bought our first house together.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of there were a lot of like momentous milestones that happened at Lake Martin. So it'll always be special, and we have dear friends there that we hung out with all the time.
And contributed to our success at Helen and Bayonet that we're still friends with. Artisans.
So did y'all do college at all? Like, did you go to school for culinary, or?
I did. I went to Auburn. I was going to be
I'm assuming that's what the LT Gray hat is.
Well, no, LT Gray is the new bar that Chewy and Jose are opening.
Oh, okay, yeah. I heard rumors of that, but I hadn't heard anything concrete yet.
Well, yeah, it's still a rumor, but somehow I got this hat. So yeah, it's LT Gray, the band. Maybe it's out because they've got an Instagram page. So, but no, I went to Auburn, and I wanted to be a chiropractor like my grandfather, and I went to take some core classes before I went to the chiropractic school in Alpharetta, Georgia, and after I failed anatomy the third time, I also got a job at Ruby Tuesday's waiting tables to make extra money. And I did that for a couple of years, I guess, and I moved into the kitchen. I was working in there, and I'll never forget the moment when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. It was football weekend, super busy. I was getting trained on the grill, and there was this guy's name was Ennis, nicest person in the world, but Ennis talked real deep and smelled like cool cigarettes and cocoa butter, and he was amazing. And I was just getting pummeled on this Friday night, and Ennis was training me, and he looked at me, he grabbed me, stopped me, and he said, "Have you ever been shot at?" And I went, "No." I was like, "No, I've never been shot at." And he goes, "I have." And he goes, "We're all going to go home tonight. These people out here that we're feeding are going to go home tonight. And we're just cooking food. We're not hiding from bullets." And I was like, that was a weird way to put that, but I got it. And we got through service, and I don't know. I mean, I just kind of, after that moment, always had different respect for Ennis for sure. But, little does Ennis know, he changed my life that night with that statement, and sent me in a different trajectory. And I changed jobs to Amsterdam Cafe, another restaurant in Auburn, and I graduated working there, and then I graduated in June or in May, and then drove to Vermont in June.
Wow.
And started culinary school at New England Culinary Institute in Montpelier, Vermont.
Yeah.
And then did that. That took 2 years, finished, moved back to Alabama, and then interviewed because I had to do an internship to finish the school, and interviewed at Highlands and Hot, and I think that was it. And then it was really kind of like, at that moment, like, who's going to make me the best offer, because I've been in college for 7 years, and I needed to make money. And so went to work at Hot and was there 3 years, and then went to Jim and Nick's. I was there almost 2 years to the day. I'd started a personal chef job the last year that I was at Hot, and I continued to do that for the 2 years that I was at Jim and Nick's as well.
Which is where we met.
At 2 days a week. And we met at Jim and Nick's. And Emily had been there for a long time, and was on the training team. And so she had been opening a new restaurant when I started. And when she came back, my wife is very spunky, and she walked in and she was like, "You need a haircut." And I was like, "Who is this person?" And so I later kind of figured out that was her way of flirting with me. And then
Well, and I started out in the hospitality business. I knew that I loved that. I started at 16. I was the hostess at Jimenix, Greystone, and it was so busy. And that was back when there was only, I think, maybe 3 or 4 locations, and I loved it. And after high school, I wasn't ready to go off to college. I wasn't mature enough, so I did. I went on what they call like the training team, and I opened 11 restaurants.
Wow.
You know, from Jasper to Denver, Colorado, and just completely saw the company grow. And that was really neat in the hospitality world, to meet people all over and train people and be a leader, and learn a lot about leading at a young age, and the hospitality business for that matter.
Yeah.
And then, coming back, meeting Rob, and then I quickly realized, like, maybe I want to do something else, and so I moved into marketing and outside of the restaurant, and I liked that. I liked that a lot, and that's what I went to school for at Jeff State, was marketing and business, and I wanted to see the other side, but then, of course, he convinced me to move to the lake, and there's not a Jimenix at the lake, so.
Yeah. So y'all both kind of, I guess, Rob, you saw Ruby Tuesday like just kind of, I don't know the right way, casual dining, I guess is maybe a way to say it. And then Jimenix is also similar,
Definitely
like kind of
very
casual.
Yeah.
But then you go to culinary school.
fast casual.
Right, fast casual. Was the intention to move more towards like fine dining, or did you, I guess, hot and hot in that realm also of fine dining?
Yeah. I was telling, we were joking the other day. I didn't really watch cartoons as a kid. I watched Justin Wilson and Galloping Gourmet and Great Chefs of the World, and and so I just always liked to cook. But I didn't really get bitten by that until I was at Auburn and thought about it as a career path. And then when I went to the Amsterdam Cafe, it was a bunch of college folks. The folks running. My boss was like a 10-year senior or something, you know. And so when I come in and I'm like, we got to come up with a special, and I've been looking on, watching Food Network all day, so I started coming up with specials and, having fun, and just really enjoyed it. And then went to culinary school and fell in love with it. And I knew that was going to make me or break me going to culinary school. And there was a lot of tension within my family, with my parents, to move to Vermont. And, growing up in Alabama, never really been out of the South. And we flew up there to look at the school, and flew into Burlington and went to Montreal for 2 days, and then came back to Montpelier. Really, the whole time there was just this weird tension, because it was like you wanting to move so far away and all this stuff. And so we went to dinner that night, and it just continued to build and build, and we got back to the hotel, and I went to sleep, and I just remember laying down, and I remember praying and saying, God, if this is where I'm supposed to be, then make that undoubtedly evident tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next morning and told my parents that. We went on the tour, and my mom looked at me afterwards and said, "This is where you're supposed to be."
Yeah.
And then I, graduated from Auburn in May, went there in June, and was there for 2 years. And I think I moved to Birmingham in 04. I moved to Birmingham in 04.
Yeah.
It started cooking finer dining.
Yeah, and started at Hot and Hot, and didn't really know where I wanted to go. I really kind of thought for a little while, we had a lot of French chefs at the culinary school that I went to, and so I was really kind of leaning maybe going to Europe for a while, but also wanted to come back to Alabama for a little while, which God had a path, and I'm glad that I didn't try to alter that path.
Yeah.
So,
did either of you grow up with like very entrepreneurial parents or parents who are working in like food service industry?
Not at all.
not in the food service, but entrepreneurial.
And not real risk takers. Like, I don't remember it. Like, my mom had a very steady secretary job, and my dad was a salesman. I was all around all salesmen. My sister's a salesman. I felt like I kind of was in the marketing side. I could just try to sell anything.
Right.
But Rob was really my introduction to fine dining. When we would go out, when he would get a weekend off or a night off, we would go and see his friends at other Birmingham restaurants. We'd go sit at the bar and have a drink and have a couple appetizers, and go to the next place and have a couple appetizers. And so that transition from, Jim and Nick's to the lake and to the new food that he was cooking there was so exciting, because it was new for me, but I could see all the talent kind of growing, and the energy that he brought, from what I'd seen. And not that it was bad, it was just very different, from fast casual with a drive-through to now you need a reservation and you sit down and you dress up and it's exciting. And you from the very minute you sit down, and do you want to talk about wine? You can, there's somebody to service the table with wine and bread. It's just so cool. I just loved that. I didn't get to do that at the lake. I moved into real estate, but that was still talking to people, and we made a really good team, because I could say, I can get you into Springhouse, and my husband's the chef, it was a lot of fun, that time, and still getting to eat really good, food, and especially on the weekends. Rob would still cook, and we'd have friends over, and it'd be a whole day on the lake, and then he'd still, he'd be like, well, let's put a goat on, or a pig or something.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not a goat.
We cooked a goat.
There was a goat and a pig and a cow, and like whole roasted animals, and I didn't think there was anything he wasn't going to cook or braise or grill or anything, and it was just really exciting time. Looking back at it now, I don't think I realized how cool that time was. I knew that we were young and having a great time with food and friends, but
that was a time.
Really neat.
That was a time in our life where we lived. We didn't have kids. Nobody around us had kids, and we worked for Russell Lands, who owns vast majority of Lake Martin and owns Springhouse. And they put us in these Russell cabins, which are legendary. If you still have one, it's like the Holy Grail.
Think
An
Dirty
original
Dancing,
one.
Families go off, and they have these little cabins. And
so there was 3 cabins that had restaurant management people in it.
That's so cool.
It was very Dirty Dancing and very kind of like summer camp year round, and we called it the Slough Crew, because we lived in the slough that you drove up to go to Springhouse in. And the weekends we worked hard, and then on the weekends we enjoyed the lake like everybody else did, and then everybody left on Sunday afternoon, and we were closed Monday and Tuesday. So Sunday afternoon was always we called it chasing the sun, and we would chase the sun until it went down, then we would go back and we'd start cooking dinner.
Our weekends were Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
They were very different than everybody else's weekend, but that Sunday when most people left to drive home was the best. We had friends that taught wakeboard lessons to everyone, and then they got to take us out. And that was so much fun.
That's so cool.
Created relationships with people that worked at the marinas and worked at the restaurants. And it was really cool.
Yeah. It sounds like a dream.
Hospitality. Yeah.
It was hard to leave.
That's
what I was going to say. Why would you leave?
Right.
Because there was one box that was not checked, and it wasn't going to get checked unless we left, and that was to a restaurant.
Where did that inkling come from? Was that the intention all along? Like, go to culinary school, start your own restaurant?
Yes, until
I didn't realize that.
Well, that was kind of like all along was like that was the goal, was to open my own restaurant. And then we get to Lake Martin, and it's like, why would we leave here? This is amazing.
Yeah.
But work started to become, it was the things the hours that I was putting in and the work that I was doing and the struggles that I still have today, but I needed to own those struggles. They needed to be mine at the end of the day. And, I feel like one of the biggest compliments that people would pay when leaving was that, you ran Springhouse like it was yours, but I didn't really, and I thought that I was, but you really never know what it's like to run your own business until it's your own business. Right. There's a lot of things that I look back now and I go, they didn't talk to me about that.
Right.
And that's fine. They were insulating me from that. And I didn't really need to know that, but really at Springhouse, I mean, I'd been there and I'd started doing a devotional at Springhouse and before I started my day. So I would get there, I'd make coffee, turn lights on, open doors, do the thing, and then go and sit down and I would do a devotional. And March 14th, 2018, sat down, opened my devotional, and it was Deuteronomy 1:6. God spoke to the people of Horeb and said, "You have dwelt on this mountain long enough." And to me, I heard, "You have dwelt at Lake Martin long enough."
Right.
And on this mountain, Springhouse. And
what he was doing was not sustainable, right? Like 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. with a young family and having all that stress, yes, but when it's not your own,
right?
It's like, and I didn't really realize it at the time,
Right. And there's certain things that I love it there. I love that restaurant. I mean, I just, it's just amazing. But there were things that were not going to be fulfilled if I did not continue.
Yeah, I feel like that's, there's, the idea of creative destruction where like you have to kind of destroy something that might be good to make something even better. There's like that refining process, I feel like that's one of the challenges of like going throughout your career is like there's a place that's grown you and you've grown with it and it's invested so much in you and there's a perception that people leave jobs because something bad happened at the old job, but that might not necessarily be the case. It's just that like there's more growing to be done.
Well, I'm a firm believer that my success is due to the freedom that I was given by Russell Lands and to run Springhouse like I owned it.
Yeah. And
I was given very few parameters. It was an amenity to what they were building around the lake. And, it was challenging from a business standpoint because it's really kind of in the very beginning, you've got kind of 3 months from Memorial Day to Labor Day of where you're making most of your money. And then you got the ebb and flow of, employees and having to back off in the wintertime and stuff like that. So, but that allowed me to experiment and cook on my own and do things. And so when I started thinking about doing our own place, I was like, that in order for people, I want our employees to come to work and feel that they can come and they're given the opportunity to experiment and do their own things as well. And they're pushing their limits and we're pushing limits to grow. But I don't think that in my method anyway of growth, me coming in and dictating what everybody's day is going to look like is the best way for us to grow the way that I want to run our business. Yeah. I want people to come in and be happy and be excited about a challenge that they put on themselves, not one that I've put on them. Because I feel like to do the research, and they're going to put the time in to figure out that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that's not to say they're not going to make a mistake, and I welcome mistakes because that's how we grow.
Right.
Is by making mistakes. And I don't yell at people. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
Rob does have a unique leadership style.
Yeah.
The chefs are notoriously known to have, sort of a hothead, or they can be, right? Not Birmingham, but just worldwide
Generally,
or nationwide.
yeah.
Generally,
Stereotypically.
they're coming in, they're yelling, their pots and pans are flying, and it's quite, the opposite. Even the way that we communicate at home, it wouldn't work if someone's yelling and the other person's, because
Right.
it just doesn't. And so if you want to teach people and let them grow and find the potential and invest in young chefs and young, servers and what they can do, you can't yell at people.
Right.
Yeah,
there's I study a lot of business people because I'm very interested in business and how it works. And the guy, Jensen Young, is the guy who runs NVIDIA. And he is much more of like I'm gonna beat you into perfection kind of guy. And I don't resonate with that at all whatsoever. It's just not like, he's built an amazing business, but I don't like that. It's not me.
Yeah.
Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard. I read his book a couple years ago, and it's one of the most impactful books I've read in my life. And it's called Let My People Go Surfing, and that's their company policy. So for their corporate headquarters, it's in California. They don't have like a time on, time off, PTO structure. Their structure for how people work is, if the waves are nice on Tuesday, go surfing. If the snow is fresh on Thursday, go snowboard. Get your work done, accomplish what you need to do, and create capacity for you to go and like enjoy life and make life much more fluid. And that doesn't work in every business, but I think the sentiment is there, that it's like,
it's the culture that he's created.
Yes.
And like you said, it doesn't mean that we can let our servers go, hit the beach anytime they want to, because
Right.
it's going to be a sunny weekend. But it's the culture, and that's what Rob and I try to teach or create, is a culture where you can go to work and not be yelled at.
Right.
Or, so
you
that's
give
really
people
cool.
freedom to like infuse themselves into
Right.
the place where they work, instead
Yeah.
of being told, here's exactly how you do everything. Because like that works for some people, but I don't know. I think there's a magic in that like camaraderie that it creates, where you invite everyone in to like put their fingerprints on what you're making.
There's definitely been there's been like this when we said, okay, when we open and we're gonna have an open door policy, and if you need to talk about something, we're here. And it took a while for people to come and talk, and finally I can't remember what it was, but talking to this one employee, we're like, why wouldn't you come? Because nobody's ever listened before. And so it was okay. And so, I mean, we've just tried to be very transparent with things, and we've made mistakes, but we've owned up to those mistakes, and we've sat down with the entire staff on the ones that we're not going to hide this from you. We made a mistake.
Yeah.
And this is what we did, and we own up to it. And if the apology is not good enough, then we completely understand. But I think, being honest with people goes a super long way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Super
And
long way.
I'm trying to think if there's a time where someone said, we have an open door policy. Now, granted, I have not had a long history of jobs. I've had very few jobs. But to say to somebody, we are here to listen to you for whatever you have going on in the building or out of the building. If you're struggling, let us know. And I think that has been we have seen that to be very positive in the last 5 years with Helen, and now with Bayonet. Many people take us up on that, because how can they do their job during the scheduled time if something so big is looming over them. Let us know. Let us help you work through it. You know, do you need resources? Do you need time off? You know, whatever it is. And I think that that goes a long way with people to know that you can listen and just, we may not have the answers. We might need to take some time and ask around, but we certainly, we want to help, you know.
Yeah, and you know, no, you can't go surf any day you want to because the waves are good in the restaurant business. But
also, we're in Birmingham. There are no waves.
I don't know.
Maybe.
East Lake's supposed to be pretty good, I think.
Sure.
But, but no, like we do, if you've been there for a year, you get 10 days of PTO. And we have a personal day policy. If you call and say, I've got to have a personal day, there's no questions asked. You have that personal day.
Yeah.
And that doesn't count against your PTO. It doesn't
You don't need
count
to know.
against your sick leave. You know, you also get 5 days of paid sick leave if you go to the doctor and you come back with a note. And so and we encourage people to do those things and take advantage of it. And we're trying to work more of 48 to 45 hours a week.
Yeah.
And in which case a lot of back of house are on a 4-day work week because of that.
Yeah.
Which they love.
Yeah. That's so cool. So that's a lot of Helen now, but where does Helen start? Like you decide to leave Springhouse.
Yeah.
Did you immediately go and, sign a lease and
Right.
build
I remember he told me, and it was like, okay, and he, of course, didn't say this is what we're doing. He said, I really want to do this. And I just thought, gosh, yeah, this is scary, but that's what, if you're doing it, I'm with you. We had young children, and we saw that we had had a sick mom at the time, and I'd love to get back to Birmingham. And we knew that Birmingham really was probably going to be a little bit better, schools for our girls. Not that it's not there by any means, but I think we eventually just realized, we love the lake, but Birmingham is growing. The food scene is growing. He is not going to go open a restaurant in Alex City. We couldn't go, and we didn't have we didn't feel the love to go to Auburn or Charleston. We had talked about that. Do we go to Charleston? Do we
go to Auburn?
Yeah, do we go to Auburn or any other great food? Nashville was in the conversation. But we ultimately decided Birmingham was home. Birmingham felt good and comfortable and achievable. And he had been approached many times in the past by other people let's open a restaurant. And he, of course, just kind of put it off. But he did. He reached out to an agent, and we looked at 22 properties that day.
Wow.
And it was a lot. It was overwhelming. I didn't know what we were looking for. We went I remember seeing this property. I was like, oh, I love it. And then I walked outside, and there was the interstate. I'm like, oh, I don't love that. There's certain things I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but but when we walked into Helen, it felt so good. Rob knew immediately that was it. And it was, also happened to be a buddy that he grew up knowing in Haleyville, owned the building. And we're like, well, this might be a good landlord situation, So I think the ball just started rolling.
That was the first building that I looked at. I didn't have an agent at that time. I just called my friend and Carter, and he said, yeah, come look at it. And we looked at it, and I was like, this is it.
Remember we talked about, we're like, oh my God, it's on the north side. When we had left Birmingham, everybody was hanging out on the south side.
Well, nobody was going past 5 Points when I left.
All the bars that we went to, we were at Bell Bottoms and Dave's and Highlands and Hot and Hot. Everything was right there. Yeah. And so there wasn't anything to look at 5. But since we had been gone those last 10 years, Birmingham had expanded. Zaza was down there. El Barrio was down there.
Paramount.
Break and 10. Paramount and Bamboo and all these other restaurants. We were like, wow, we could complement them. They're already introducing Birmingham to this part of town, let's go do that, And that was a really cool thing also to see, was that part of town growing. Because as a young person, I really didn't go downtown. I mean, I had gone to a few concerts, of course, at the BJCC and around, but not dining.
Right.
Not dining.
I always wonder about the transition when you're moving from like job to starting your own business. Were you still working the whole time until like doors open Helen?
It was really, really strange.
Well, you also throw in a pandemic.
Well, that's what I was
Right.
going to say.
Yeah.
So we turned.
Okay, so y'all look at property in 2018?
We turned our notice. We turned in our notices in November of 19.
Okay. Perfect timing.
We had already, but we had already started looking at property and LOIs, and
We
no
started
lease had
talking
been
to
signed yet,
banks.
but investor was definitely engaged. SBA process had been started. I mean, the whole thing. We were
Marketing, logos.
go button had been hit.
Yeah.
And then we turned our notices in, I think it was like November the 18th, something like that, of 19. And then my parents came back. My parents had gone on a trip to Switzerland and came back and had one of the worst cases of flu that they had ever had.
Yeah.
And then that's when things started, happening, and then everything shut down, and everybody was like really kind of looked at us, with the exception of our close friends, but looked at us like, y'all are crazy. I
But
mean,
Rob was kind
y'all
of
are
done with
nuts.
Springhouse at that time, but I was so busy in real estate
Yeah.
because people were taking time off, and so I kept working, and
Right,
he was
right.
home with our girls and able to continue rolling the ball of business, and we just kept praying
God really
praying that this was all going to work out.
Right.
God really insulated us, because, like Emily said, she was selling real estate and people were buying it because
I was going to say,
they
that's
were
like
all
a
going to the lake.
crazy dynamic. I didn't even think about that.
It was
Yeah.
nuts. And so
That was our cushion. We were able
Yeah.
to, because he had sort of transitioned out, that money and that period of time between January and us leaving in July, we were able to sustain with no income from what I'd made in real estate for over a year.
Wow.
But otherwise, we
Well,
didn't really know what we were going to do.
we had
Yeah.
other money saved up, and then we had planned, for this, and we make the move, and Emily's mom passed just before we were able to move. And then we moved into our now home, and we had been in it for 3 days, and my dad went to UAB to have throat cancer removed. We had come back the second time. And so I spent 7 days. He spent 7 days. Between my mom and I stayed 2 days, and she stayed the rest of the time at the hospital with him. Then he got out, and got out from that, and they went home, and
But that
But- my dad passed almost a year ago. He passed in April of last year, and so from Alzheimer's. But I mean, it was complicated. It was complicated when we moved back to Birmingham.
Yeah.
From the time we moved back to Birmingham.
Yeah, for the very moment. But we just, again, had faith, and just, it's, because what do you do, right? You talked about being an entrepreneur. We didn't know. Is this part of entrepreneurship that everyone around you kind of because we were looking for our cheerleaders, and of course we had each other. We were our own cheerleaders, and we did have people, and that cheered for us and looked for our success. But it was really wild there at the beginning because, luckily nothing was back ordered because everything had already been ordered. Everything was going. We never slowed down. We had a fantastic relationship with our contractor, and
Still do.
yeah, and we opened, and with no there's, when they rolled out COVID, there wasn't a like book that says this is what you do.
Right.
No one really knew. So that August, we just took it one step at a time, and every other table we sat, and people came in with masks and then took them off to eat and then put them back on to walk out. It was very strange, right? But like we just thought, well, we still have to open. And because so many places had closed, it was an opportunity for so many people to come get a job with us, know. So the service industry, there were plenty of people, and it was opportunity to continue that lifestyle that we talk about now of that 4 days, because people knew what it was like to be off work, to find quality of life again. Mm-hmm. And so we said, we want to create that too. We want to open a place that allows for quality of life. There's got to be a balance, because we saw it wasn't sustainable what Rob was doing before, working all day, right? Like you're just exhausted at the end of the night. You have nothing left to give. And so we could see that burnout, and we did not want that for others around us. And so I think that's the culture that we really started at Helen, and it's been really helpful because people talk about it and they want to come work in a place where they can get PTO, they can work 4 days, they can take a personal day, and we have those open door policies of things that it just feels a little bit more normal, because it's the hospitality industry is like the Wild West. It really is, whether or not you're working in a hotel or a restaurant or a golf course or a country club, it's serving others, and that's hard to do day in and day out.
Yeah. Are y'all familiar with Todd Graves? He's the guy who started Raising Cane's.
Yes.
So his story is crazy. Different business model, but still in the service industry. He opened his first restaurant in Louisiana, scaled up to like 10 or 11 stores, and was like up to his eyeballs in debt, just like trying to get as many stores opened as he could, because the idea was like eventually it'll kind of all cash flow and come back in. And then I think it was Katrina came through, and like nothing was open because everything was flooded, and no one had power or anything. And he's like, I have all this debt, like none of my stores are going to survive. What's going on? And he worked with, I think it was the state of Louisiana, to like get his stores open somehow or another so that he could serve people. And there was this window of like maybe 3 or 4 months where he was like the only restaurant open in the whole region of South Louisiana, because nobody else could get open. And so it actually like blew up his business in a good way, like so much growth, so many customers, because he was the only person who was there serving food. And so he's able to serve first responders and people who couldn't live in their homes because they didn't have kitchens because it was all flooded and whatever. I feel like if you can figure out the way to push through, I think a lot of the people who found success post COVID were the ones who were able to like figure it out in the middle. Like it was chaos, no one knew it was happening, but you figure it out and you push through and find creative ways to make it work.
Pivot,
if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have times where you're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that will never stop.
Yeah.
There will always be things that are hard, and you have to figure them out.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, James Beard's Michelin Award, that stuff, how important is that for a restaurant like what you guys do, and where does that kind of come along in y'all's story?
Well, I remember the first time Rob was nominated for James Beard. I didn't really know about it. Everybody kind of knows about the Golden Globes or the Emmys when it comes to television, but then you're like, oh, well, there's this award system for the food industry, and it includes, chefs and pastries and books, and there's this, whole world out there of people that recognize success, and it was exciting. I think Rob we were all excited, and each year at Springhouse came with a nomination, and then it would also, it's very hype. So there's a big long list of 20, and then in 3 months it's a smaller list of 5. and then in 3 more months you get a winner, right? Like it's very anxiety driven. And when you go to culinary school or open a restaurant, do you open it for awards? You know, that's a question you have to ask yourself. Or am I doing this for the fame, or am I doing this to feed people and make connections and be a part of a community? So I think Rob could tell you his opinion of how he felt. I mean, I look at it as a very proud of my husband to be recognized. Whether or not he is recognized or not, I think he's a great chef,
Right.
It's cool to be on the list, to be recognized, because people do have to come eat with you to get on the list, and it's usually a secret person. You don't know. You don't call and say, "Hey, we'd like you to come dine with us.
Yeah.
We think we got a good
Hey,
thing
put
going."
on your best show because
Yeah.
someone's coming to judge you.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really work like that.
Well, I think that I'll speak for myself. 5 years in a row, I got a nomination at Springhouse. I will say in that 5 years, that status, whatever, it changed me in a way that I didn't necessarily like. My priorities changed, and why I was cooking changed. And, the day that I wasn't on the list, the first time that I wasn't on the list, and that was the 6th year, came about a month before I read the Bible verse, Deuteronomy 1:6. And Emily actually called me, and she told me, she was like, "Hey, have you seen?" "No, you're not on the list." "Okay, well," it's kind of a sucker punch, and just kind of felt like, oh man, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
But moved on, opened Helen, and kind of thought we might get a nod when we opened Helen, but nothing happened that first year, and then
you're like, but it's still a great place, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I wasn't bothered by not getting a nomination. I was doing what I wanted to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd opened a restaurant. Emily and I had opened a restaurant, and we were doing this thing together. Never thought that we would be working together. And so I was fine with it. And then we did get a nomination for Best Chef South 2 years ago, I think. And I mean, it's great, and I love it, and nobody doesn't want to get picked for the kickball team,
Right.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's awesome, but it is also kind of like a bummer when you're not on there, and I've felt that, and I know how others feel when they feel like they should, they deserve that recognition,
Mm-hmm. And your
and
staff
then,
too,
yeah,
they get
and-
so excited.
the
for
staff as well, because it's a fact that 30 your business increases like 30% or something if you bring home the James Beard Award.
Right.
And so but James Beard is one of those things to where I'm just kind of I just kind of I don't have any control over that, so I'm not going to let it control what we're doing. Kind of same thing with Michelin. Michelin comes with a little bit more mystique to it because it's new and we don't know anything about it. And
Right.
But I will say that was really neat because we never thought about Michelin because it had not been in the South
Right.
at all. And it was more of this is a huge city thing. And so that was never on our radar. Like James Beard, of course, is always going to be on our radar. And that's something that I do hope that one day Rob will have. But when we heard that they were making their way to the South and they had gone to Atlanta, we're like, wow. And I remember even Jason Davis, who's Rob's right-hand man, he's like, we could have a shot at this,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no way. But then I remember, hearing that they were going to come to Alabama and Louisiana and like this whole new category. It just felt like the curtain opened for an opportunity for not only for us but for the South, and that's really cool to shine a light because we're not the only ones out here serving great food,
Yeah.
and so it's nice to see us on that big spotlight stage.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like, I mean, I was shocked by the Michelin list mostly because of how many Birmingham restaurants were on there or
Yeah.
Alabama restaurants were on
Yeah.
there. Why do you think Birmingham has such a crazy, rich food scene? Like, it just seems so disproportionate for the size.
Well, we don't. Birmingham goes out to eat.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, we've got some pretty cool music venues, but what do you do before you go listen to music?
Yeah.
Gotta eat something.
There's not. We don't. You know, we've got sports teams. We don't have big major sports teams that draw big
Not
crowds.
yet. Yeah.
Not yet. Hopefully coming. But music and now the amphitheater downtown. I'm looking forward to this summer to see the impact of that. I mean, last year was really good. I mean, it was like,
It was great for
oh,
business.
wow, you know, it's something that's not on your radar because it hadn't been there. And
Right.
it's like, why is there 2,000 people walking around downtown Birmingham right now? Because it wasn't that way. Well, there's a, Dirks Bentley or whatever.
Morgan Wallen's around.
Yeah. There's a concert at the amphitheater. So,
But truth be told, Southerners have always loved food. I mean, if someone passes away, you take them a casserole. If someone has a baby, you're doing dinner. I mean, we love to eat. I mean, when we're sad, we eat. You know, like and so I think we grew up with family cooking. You know, I know I did on the weekends. We'd go down to the lake and my grandparents would cook. They would always have something on the grill, and so we all have like those different stories. Obviously Rob's got his story of Helen, but I think that we all just love one another and want to sit around a table together and share a meal. And I think that in the South, that's just what happened. And so people just said, let's open a place. I mean, we have a lot of Greek restaurants, a lot of hot dog stands that had started before us. Barbecue, obviously, there's no shortage. And then it just, the different things came. French restaurants. I think Frank Stitt was a huge person that opened the door to French cooking.
Kind of the godfather of Birmingham food in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. And we're so lucky that he's still here and serving food, So.
Birmingham, the Southeast for sure. I mean, he really kind of
spearheaded,
cleared a path
Oh, yeah.
for many of us to walk on. For sure.
Yeah. Is there what's your relationship like with other chefs and restaurants around town?
Good. I mean,
we love to eat too.
Yeah,
like I like to go out to eat, and Adam Evans and I have been good friends for a really long time, and
yeah, he and Suzanne came to visit us at the lake.
It's crazy. Like, I always thought that we would hang out more than we do, but I mean, both of us are crazy busy. We've got kids, and we prioritize those things, and so, like, we talk on the phone a good bit, and we used to fish a lot together. So, before we opened Helen, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was right when the vaccine had come out, and Adam and I planned a fly fishing trip, and we both went and got COVID tests that morning, both negative. I'd gone and gotten my second shot that morning, and we drove to North Carolina, and I'd gotten like this Airbnb and found places to fish and stuff, and we went up there, and that was before Helen had opened and Automatic was open, and we spent like 2 or 3 days up there in the mountains fishing and hanging out, and it was great, and so we're close to several folks. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I went out to dinner with 3 or 4. Well, I guess it was Adam and 4 or 5 of us chefs, people in the restaurant industry.
Did you go to Bottega?
We did.
My wife and I were there when y'all were there.
So see,
I looked over and I was
People
like,
were
I think
talking.
that's Rob, and I think that's. I was like, that's like a meeting of the masterminds of all the chefs in town.
So it was wild. We make that joke now. We're like, yeah, let's just all go out to eat and see what people say. And I was like, let's get a real estate agent and a lawyer to go with us too. And that'll really mix things up.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, that we did. That was totally. And I actually just got a text 3 days ago. It was like, y'all ready to do this again?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think we're going to try to do it again. So,
But yeah, we love our neighbors. We love our food neighbors, and we try to dine out with everybody. Like, we were so excited this last 6 months when several new places opened, and we think it's great. You know, what do you always say?
a rising tide floats all ships.
That's right.
I love that.
Yep.
You know, it is a small market, but if you're, you know,
People got to eat 3
That's
meals a
right.
day.
That's right. And
yeah, and there's a lot of folks, that come to Birmingham,
Yeah.
just, you know, and
tourists and visitors alike. Yeah.
yeah.
So where did Bayonet come along?
I just wanted to open an oyster bar that was a place for people to wait for Helen. And so like there was, that's where Bayonet
Yeah,
is, where
yeah.
the parlor. I just wanted there to be a raw bar right there. And there'd be a window that we could open up, and it was just that side, and that was it.
We needed somewhere
And-
for.
but because
yeah.
of ingress egress of the building, because it's multi-use, we couldn't do that, and so it was like you got to either take the whole space or do something else. And I was like, okay, well, look at the whole space and what that looks like. It was more of a restaurant, and so we started going down that path, and
Well, then something felt really good about if you're going to open a next restaurant, at least be close. You know, like let's not have to get in the car and go if there's a
right.
problem or we need somebody, or, you know, not that we were planning to like share staff or anything, but like how great would it be just to be right there?
it's very convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To walk out one door into the other. And, you know, we drew a pretty hard line in the beginning that we're not going to, you know, because we had a couple of folks who were like, can we work at both? We're like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So really
But-
our pastry chef is the only one that's doing a program.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
part of management, you know, Daniel, director of operations, Emily and I, and Candace, our Foster, our pastry chef, you know, we're the ones that kind of go back and forth. But so Bayonet came up and started kicking names around, and we went on a Disney cruise, and the whole Disney cruise, we're just sitting there talking about
Names.
oyster, you know, oyster house, oyster parlor, this and that, and
Agricola,
the
remember
Agricola pea crab lounge. And then I looked up pea crab, and it's actually a parasite for oysters. I was like, well, that's not gonna
Maybe
be
not that.
good, you know,
Yeah.
but it's also a delicacy to a lot of people. So, but what we ended up kind of landing on was the Matt Harris did the branding, and so he had these Spanish bayonet plants, and I was like, I don't know what it is about that, but I kind of like that, and not the sword, because the sword, like, it seems violent, and it seems like pretty heavy for the times that we're in, and
Yeah.
just kind of, you know. So we decided on Spanish bayonet plant because it's protective, you know, it's resilient, and it's got this beautiful bloom, and it is unexpected.
Yeah.
Because you think sword, it's actually this beautiful plant that's resilient and protective.
And they're everywhere.
And
Once
they
you
are.
start looking for 'em.
They all over Birmingham.
Yeah.
It's like seeing chanterelle mushrooms in the woods. Once you see one, you cannot not see them.
Yeah.
You know, they're everywhere. And so, but Bayonet was to be different than Helen. It was always supposed to not, it was to be a totally different dining experience, with the exception of quality, hospitality, service, all the things that
Great food.
you know. And so one thing that I have to continually remind myself is Bayonet is not even a year old yet. So quit holding it to the standard that you hold Helen to.
Yeah.
Because Helen's been doing it for almost 6 years now. Bayonet's not even a year old yet. So I have to remind myself we have to continue to crawl before we stand up and we sprint, you know. And so we're working through the paces, but it's been so much fun, and we've got such an amazing staff that's there as well, that just really kind of buy into what we're doing. We're doing something totally different. We're doing a total tip share. Servers are making, you know, everybody makes at least minimum wage, and then there's the tip on top of that. And so
it's tip for
everybody,
front and back, which is really neat. And
porters, cooks, everybody gets a tip out.
Yeah.
And I was in the very beginning, I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work out, you know. And then, but it, you know, it's really been, so far it's been good, and we've got, we're coming up on 1 year, and we've got
2 weeks.
How many employees that are still with us from the very beginning? Like 16.
16 employees
Wow.
that are celebrating 1 year with us.
Yeah.
And that's so neat. And so many, 3 or 4 started at Helen, and 2 of our chefs there. And that's the thing, like, you know, they had sort of plateaued at Helen, and then it worked out. We were like, let's go do this. Y'all continue to grow with us, you know. And I think that will be our future, is we will continue to have the talent that we're surrounded by. We're so lucky to be surrounded by young people. And I think that's what Birmingham is right now, is full of talented young people that ignite us, and we continue to grow them. They grow us too. I mean, we don't have this crystal ball of the future or knowledge, but it's so fun to do it, to grow with other people, you know. Like, it's super scary, but let's jump in.
Yeah.
You know, let's go for it.
If they're not growing, we're not growing.
Right.
That's right.
If we keep people on a plane and don't let them grow, then we're going to stay on that same plane as well.
Right.
And so it's super important that we make sure that people, that we're training people and we're allowing people to grow to leave.
Yeah.
And that's weird to say, because it's like all you hear about is like,
Retention, especially in the
can't
restaurant
find
world.
anybody to work,
Yeah.
you know. This,
Yeah.
I mean, but and it's true. I mean, it's hard. I mean, like, when you can't find somebody, it really is. I mean, it's
difficult.
It's difficult. But you know, I look at it as when we hire someone, we're investing in them. It's an investment, and I want, you know, that return on our investment is either going to come through a future relationship, opening another restaurant possibly, or you moving on and excelling and carrying what you've learned here, and hopefully how we treat each other. That's the big thing, is like how we internally look at hospitality as it being as important as the hospitality we show towards our guests. Because if we're being hospitable to each other, then we're 9 times out of 10 going to be more hospitable to our guests when they walk through the door.
Yeah.
People are happy, and you know, yesterday I was kind of back and forth, and we had an ice machine didn't work at one restaurant, and was showing someone from Helen where the ice machine was at Bayonet, and we're walking back, and she was like, everybody seems so happy over there. They're all singing and like chipper. And then someone from Bayonet came over to Helen and kind of said the same thing, and it was like it was totally you know, like that wasn't, I wasn't fishing for that or anything. It was just kind of what they kind of said, and then like I said, like I worked last night, and one of the porters came out of the dish room and started giving everybody high fives. Went all the way down the line and gave everybody a high five, and everybody high fived
Tell them
each
what
other
a porter is.
right before. Where else? The dishwasher.
Yeah.
I know, but not
just
everybody.
before
Right. Yes. Good clarification. I should have said that.
just before service, you know, just
Yeah.
before service starts, and gives everybody a high five, and I mean, but that's how they start every night.
Yeah.
And so, and like I said, Helen, we still got growth, but to watch folks like Jason Davis, who came to work for us as a line cook, and then was there, but has an amazing resume. He was a line cook for a couple of months, and I promoted him to CDC chef de cuisine. But his growth from that point to now has just been, not just his. Everyone, a lot of folks have experienced this growth, but like for him to see him and his the way he carries himself now compared to when he first started, and his demeanor in the kitchen.
Well, it's contagious. Like he's he has shown other people when you really focus, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can be this great chef, and he, like Rob said, he is a great chef. But he's particularly been fun to watch.
Yeah.
Really grow into a great leader.
Yeah. Where did the name for Helen come from?
So Helen was my nanny,
Okay.
as in my grandmother, though.
Yeah.
And she and my grandfather Jack Frudiger was their name, and they lived in Aniana, and he was a chiropractor, and she had, dinner on the table every night and raised a family, and they lived in this rancher that they built on, I can't remember how many acres the yard was, but it was like this massive yard that you had to have a tractor to mow, but he kept it manicured. And
Wow.
there was a creek that ran on the back side of the property, and he had pulled rocks out of the creek and built this wall out of the flat rocks out of the creek. And about every 10 feet, he had a spot in the wall where when the water came up, it could come through the wall and not push the wall down.
Wow.
And so he had this wall built, and just like that, the memories of going to their house.
But she had an indoor grill.
But yeah, and the memories going to their house, always. But both grandparents, I never knew my grandfather on my dad's side, just his mother, and she was on the other end of the spectrum, lived in the country, did not have central heat and air, never had a car, and had a window unit in the kitchen, and that was the only air conditioning she had. And then my grandparents in Aniana, they lived in this really nice house, and we the food memory that Helen is based off of is her cooking steak.
Yeah.
And she had this grill that was in the living room to the left-hand side of the fireplace, but all kind of built into the brick. And so she would be standing there with one foot up on the hearth, grilling steaks on this grill. It looked like a small like barbecue pit, really.
Yeah.
It had a iron door on the front of it that had a damper on it, and she would have Kingsford charcoal in there with the little electric thing to start it with, and she'd be over there cooking steaks she had a yellow mustard squeeze bottle with water in it to douse down any flames when they started licking up. And so but yeah, that food memory of like going to her house and that feeling I felt when we walked in the door of discomfort and care and love, and the smell of food and steak, and I don't know that's where Helen came from.
That's so cool. Well, what's the future looking like? Y'all have got 2 restaurants now, which is crazy. What are y'all envisioning?
I mean, we don't have any immediate plans, but I'd like to hope that we're not done. I love Birmingham. I love what we're doing, and adding more? Is it challenging? Yeah, it's challenging, but if the goal is to do that, and we're preparing ourselves to do that now for those things and looking into the future. I mean, yeah, I mean, I would like to think that we're going to continue to grow until I don't, and then and because that I may wake up tomorrow and go, I'm good with 2 restaurants, and that's it, and as long as she's fine with that, then we're good,
I don't see Rob doing that though. I think he's got some concepts he'd like to put together, and again, like you said, we don't have anything planned, but I think there are a lot of opportunities to go into some communities around Birmingham and do something really cool. Something you can walk to, something your family can go and pick something up. We love being the fine dining spot downtown or the date night, but something that's in an actual neighborhood would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This is really fun. And thanks for making Birmingham a better place. Two restaurants down and many more to go, I'm sure. But you, I mean, Helen, for me, I'm biased because my brother-in-law works for you guys, so I've been a bunch of times because of that. But it's my favorite restaurant in town, and I love to eat, and I tell everyone about it. And I've taken my family there, and it's a really special place for me and my family.
you.
So
Yeah.
thank you guys for doing it. And if you're listening, go to Helen, go to Bayonet. I've never been to Bayonet. I'll be honest, I'm a little scared of oysters.
Hey, that's okay. Happy hour is you don't have to get oysters.
I would get the fish burger.
Okay.
Yeah, the tuna burger
The tuna
is really
burger
good.
is so good.
Swordfish Reuben.
Hey, Seth has been getting takeout there.
Yes,
Really?
Seth gets
Okay.
takeout
He gets takeout all the
quite
time.
often.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I'm glad that you brought that up because that's one thing that we're trying to get the word out that we do have cooked food at Bayonet.
Yeah.
I think everybody, it's Bayonet, Spirited Raw Bar. Everybody thinks that it's just all raw seafood,
Yeah.
but I like our most popular things right now, especially at lunch, are the tuna burger and the swordfish Reuben, and then right now we have a fish fillet sandwich with American cheese, pickles.
Oh yeah.
Very similar to
Yeah,
another
I understand.
brand.
I understand what you're going for there.
Yes, it's you got to be careful how you say that,
Right.
but it's a fish sandwich.
It's a fish fillet sandwich.
It's the
Yeah.
McDaniel's.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's really good. And then happy hour, happy hours 3 to 5, and we got $2 Alabama Lights and $2 oysters. But if you're not into oysters, we've got shrimp cocktail, smoked mussels,
Oh, mini
shrimp
teenies.
toast,
Yeah.
mini martinis,
Yeah.
and then the full menus offered as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, we open at 11 and we're open until the last person's fed.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's encouraging. I'll come and I'll try an oyster.
yeah.
I'll do it for you guys. Well, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us.
This was really fun.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.